have to ask you a question. Were you the guy before who I saw a picture of holding the very creative flag? Of,
Yes, it was outside.
Yeah, dude, I got to ask you, like, Lenin and Stalin? Really?
Yeah, definitely Lenin and Stalin. It's just
Lenin and Stalin? Were you gulagged though?
We have prisons in America too.
Were you one of the like 30 million people murdered by Stalin? Like really, if you're gonna go Marxist, then please find a better Marxist to emulate than Lenin or Stalin, mass murderers.
Uh-oh, here comes another crazy college socialist libtard. Time to really shut him down and own him and call him a hypocrite. Yeah, I know I don't normally talk about these things. I don't normally make content like this, but this particular incident in particular, that's a really weird way to say it, but this particular incident really, I think, actually highlights something important that I feel like does need to be talked about because of the fact, well, let's just say, what if I told you that this guy in particular and ideas like this in particular, obviously they're bad, obviously they're terrible, but what if I told you that during the Trump presidency, it was conservatives, it was Republicans who went out of their way to secure extra permanent funding for students like this and their ideas? If I told you that, would that freak you out a little bit as a conservative? Would that make you stop and think, wait a minute, why do we keep giving extra funding? Why are we going out of our way to give federal funding to our literal political enemies? Well, it's a good question, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video and highlight. But first of all, the context, okay, so last night Ben Shapiro did one of his YAF lectures at FSU, okay, Florida State University, upstate from where I am. I know, ew, Florida State. But anyways, so as you can tell, this guy, and you've probably seen stuff like this happen before, but you know, it's always kind of a funny thing to take a picture of. This guy shows up to protest the event with a Soviet flag with Stalin and Lenin on it. Okay, and YAF couldn't resist, obviously, its content, so YAF tweets out, reading from the official YAF Twitter account, an FSU student brought a communist flag idolizing Stalin, Mao, and Lenin to tonight's event. And of course, Ben Shapiro shut him down and called out his hypocrisy. Now, don't get me wrong, I will take any opportunity to clown on FSU, and I'll join you on that, okay?
Fuck FSU! Fuck FSU! Fuck FSU!
But as a matter of reality, actually, do you see what that guy's hat says? This guy, and again, I don't mind any opportunity to make fun of FSU students.
Fuck FSU!
Students, FSUL, okay? But this guy's not an FSU student. You see what that hat says? That's a hat for FAMU, okay, Florida A&M University. Florida A&M is not Florida State. They're not the same school. Florida A&M is the HBCU, okay, in the same town in Tallahassee, Florida. So this guy doesn't go to Florida State. He goes to the HBCU in the same town. Now, what do we remember about HBCUs? Let's think back to like 2019, early 2020, when the big agenda of the conservative movement was proving that we're not racist against black people. And what was one of the single biggest talking points surrounding Trump? And here's why Trump's not racist. And I'm sure you've parroted him before. Maybe you're probably retweeting this. I'm sure most of your influencers and commentators at the time were making a big deal out of this. And it was the fact that President Trump secured permanent extra funding for the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities, okay? So let me just say, you know, I'm so glad, this is a sarcastic statement for the people who don't get this, but I'm so glad that Trump gave millions of dollars to the HBCUs so that their grateful, truly grateful students can show up to conservative events with Stalin flags. Yeah. That's a great token of appreciation. I'm really glad we did that. And I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, well, Vince, you know, chill out. You're just trying to be mean. You're just trying to attack because this is just one student, right? One kid from an HBCU shows up, you know, with a Stalin flag, and you lose your mind. But that's exactly the problem, isn't it? This is not just one student at one HBCU. If you know anything about the HBCUs, you will know that they are notorious, and even for university standards, because most universities are liberal, they lean liberal. No, even for the standards of your average university and probably even your more liberal leaning university, HBCUs are notoriously far left. HBCUs are schools with basically unanimously, which is not the case at other schools. Basically, most universities you'll go to, there is some conservative population there. No, the HBCUs are schools with essentially unanimous liberal, at the very least, in many cases, far left student populations. Okay, and that's just the truth. That's just the reality. Because even black kids who are conservative, and I don't know what ratio of the population that is, probably like 10 to 15%, I don't know. Even the black kids that are conservative choose not to go to HBCUs. We had one conservative black kid in America, okay, CJ Pearson. He was going to go to an HBCU, okay, and even he actually ended up, realized what a bad idea that was, decided not to do that, ended up going to the University of Alabama instead.
I don't know if y'all can read that, but that says ass whooper. What the tide does, be whooping that ass.
But that is to say that HBCUs are, not exactly places with any remote degree of conservatives. And again, it should also be pointed out that the non-black kids that choose to go there also choose to go there because they are, they're extremely far left, we'll say, okay, extremely loyal to the Democrats, we will say about that. And so that's all to say, you're talking about, universities in general, obviously liberal, but you're talking specifically with the HBCUs, you're talking about universities that have unanimous far left, like notoriously far left student bodies, and by the way, notoriously far left professors. And again, anyone who knows anything about HBCUs can surely testify to this. So that's all to say, knowing that these are the single most far left universities in the entire country, why exactly did President Trump, and we love the guy, but why exactly did President Trump choose to go out of his way to give extra millions of dollars of permanent funding to schools where they are essentially training, as you can see? This is one example. But it's an important highlighting of the fact that these are places that are basically indoctrination centers, even by your average university standards. Indoctrination centers, training centers for the future generations of our political enemies. Okay, so considering that's what the deal is, and considering they're mocking us at this point, I mean, that's what that is. How many YAF lectures have you seen? I don't know if Ben Shapiro was really the guy who did this, but how many YAF lectures, turning point lectures on these campuses have you seen where they get up there and they're like, Trump's not racist, he gave money to HBCUs, to which the HBCU students say, thank you, now I'm going to show up to your event with a Stalin flag and still call you racist anyway, okay? So this is exactly the problem, isn't it? Here's basically what happened with the entire situation. So in order to not appear racist to the left, we as Republicans, as the Trump administration, decide to give a bunch of money to the far left HBCUs. Okay, so let's now analyze the cost benefit of what we did. So what is the supposed pro? What is the supposed benefit of doing that? Well, we got to appear like we were not racist against black people to the left, okay? So, was that effective? Well, let's see. How many black votes do we realistically think we won by giving money to the HBCUs? Yeah, looking at the way things went, I would guess not many. Maybe a couple hundred at most, okay? On the other hand, did the left stop calling us racist because Trump gave money to the HBCUs? The answer is no. If anything, they doubled down. They were calling us even more racist after we did that. So you didn't win a significant share of the black vote. It was totally electorally useless. In terms of trying to stop getting the left to call us racist, guess what? As we all know, and we should know by now, they don't care. Give money to the black colleges or not, they're going to call you racist anyway, which is exactly what they did. Okay, clearly, you look at the line, same thing with criminal justice reform. So, you cave to the left, number one, by giving money to the most far left universities in the country. You cave to the left, number two, by enacting their goal, their agenda on criminal justice reform. Okay, and this is the talking point too, isn't it? It's like, well, Joe Biden is racist because he did the 1994 crime bill. Do people understand that this whole criminal justice reform talking point is caving into exactly what the left wants? You know what I mean? No, the problem with Joe Biden is not that 20 years ago he actually chose to be tough on crime after basically 2 decades of insane violent crime in the inner cities. And you can point out specific aspects of the 94 crime bill, and honestly, we can talk, well, maybe that didn't work, that wasn't effective, this was effective. But the idea, the notion that, just going off topic here, but let me just point out, number one, obviously we have the issue of funding the most far left universities, but also number two, the kind of other side of this, the way we are baited by the left into doing their own work for them, is this criminal justice reform issue. This is the other big Trump's not racist talking point, isn't it? The fact that he passed criminal justice reform, the fact that he passed the First Step Act, and it's like, well, Joe Biden did the 94 crime bill, therefore he's racist. let me just say, there are a lot of problems, obviously, with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has had a lot of bad things he's done in his career. But really, I don't think it's an effective conservative talking point to truly get up here and say, actually, the problem with Joe Biden was that he was too tough on crime. The problem with Joe Biden is that he chose to basically write up a very tough on crime bill after a decade, 2 decades of people in the inner cities and across America shooting each other, killing each other, huge, spike in murder and all this stuff. Well, we as conservatives, the law and order party, we think the real problem was that Joe Biden did this crime bill that actually worked, that actually was effective, and actually, you look at all the tough on crime legislation through the 90s, actually did a good job over the next decade of bringing down violent crime in America, okay? So no, really, but that's what we do. And keep in mind that the criminal justice reform, the concept that, the problem we have in our country is not that there's too many criminals on the streets, it's actually that there's not enough, that mass incarceration, right, is locking up a bunch of just innocent fathers who would otherwise be working as engineers, but because of this evil drug bill, right, all this stuff is a lie. This is liberal propaganda, okay? And it fulfills the liberal goal of letting a bunch of criminals out on the streets. That's what this whole criminal justice reform thing is really about. You know what I mean? But what did conservatives do? What did we do? Well, we basically, we did it for them. We did criminal justice reforms for them. So I'm so happy about that. But back to this whole HBCU thing, right? So again, here's what we have. Here's what the cost benefit was. Again, the benefit, maybe if it's like 0.1% of the black vote, let's say hypothetically, I don't know. And then number two, supposedly we could stop being called racist, but that was null because they ended up calling us racist anyway. Now, on the other hand, what was the cost of this? Okay, well, the cost of this was the fact that we gave a bunch of money to our political enemies. And I would argue an academic institution is the worst type of one to give it to, because what are they now using that to do? As you can see by what happened at FSU last night, we are giving this money to a bunch of professors who are going to indoctrinate and basically raise the future generation of left-wing activists who, again, will just push this country further to the left, come for us. We know the whole story there. So we funded we funded the libs to own the libs. That's really genius. That truly is genius. So it's not that hard, guys. Stop giving money to our political opponents. Stop doing what our political opponents ultimately want to do in terms of policy in order to own our political opponents. Like, oh, we did it first, guys. Oh, yeah? You want to let the criminals out of jail? Well, we did that first. Oh, you want to give money to the most far left universities in the country? But we did that first. So therefore, we're the real liberals. We're the real leftists. It would be really nice, quite frankly, to have just a serious conservative movement. But we have a conservative movement that is more obsessed with trying not to be called racist by the left. And by the way, we know what the left-wing standard of racism is, okay? Basically, you are a racist to the left if you believe that any broad-scale aggregate racial disparity might not be due to systemic racism or because of the fact that white people are the Antichrist. Like, that's essentially what the left believes racism to be. That's the left-wing definition of racism. And so that's to say you're never going to appear not racist to the left without caving in, like, totally full-scale into critical race theory and basically its foundations, right? You're never going to not look racist to the left unless you totally cave into the Marxist worldview of class and race relations that they have. Like, you're never going to be able to do that. And even so, we shouldn't be doing it anyway, because that's just bad. That's just bad policy. That's just bad ideas, right? But of course, but that's all to say, we are, as a movement, seem to be more obsessed with not being called racist than, actually being serious, actually being effective. Because, quite frankly, I don't see the political utility in, oh, we're not racist because we gave a bunch of money to the most far left universities in the country. And here's how they're thanking us, showing up to our events with Stalin flags. Yeah, okay. But no one's going to mention that, right? No one's going to kind of point out that's what happened here. Nope, he goes to FSU, guys. No, he doesn't. He goes to Florida A&M, the HBCU, and it is symbolic of a pretty big problem. But I'm sure that guy, he's so happy, he's so grateful that Trump gave his university a bunch of extra money, and I'm sure he's going to reward you by voting Republican in the next election. No, he's not. Okay, anyways, guys, before we end this video, I wanted to announce that we are finally on ODYSEE. Okay, I know I've been saying I was going to do that for a long time, but we finally made our ODYSEE account. Okay, if you don't know what ODYSEE is, it's an alt-tech YouTube. That's basically what it is, an alt-tech version of YouTube. It has there's a lot of nice things about it, though. Number one is that I can automatically sync all of my YouTube videos with ODYSEE. So my whole YouTube channel basically is also on ODYSEE, which is, obviously really great. But also, I mean, obviously it's an alt-tech platform. They're good guys that run it, so, censorship is not a problem. We can actually talk about, things on there that we can't necessarily talk about on YouTube. Number one being this whole Kyle R case, okay? We'll call it the Kyle R case. I think you know what I mean by that. But, I'm actually going to be probably making a video later this week, because the verdict will probably be out soon, about the Kyle R, and that will be an exclusive on ODYSEE. So, we'll be doing that for a while, too. A lot of ODYSEE exclusive videos that are not safe for YouTube. And so that's all to say, be sure to go subscribe to my ODYSEE channel, okay? Link in the description. Go sub to me on ODYSEE. And I'd appreciate, really, like I said, it'll be automatically synced with my YouTube channel. If you would, here's the thing, and it's convenient, you can watch it on whatever platform you want, but in terms of ad revenue, obviously censorship too, but in terms of ad revenue as well, YouTube really screws over its creators. With ODYSEE, you get a much greater cut, basically, of the actual ad revenue that your video is making, and the portion that you don't get is going to a good company, not so that's all to say. If you want to support the channel, if you want to fight against, the censorship of conservatives, a lot of big problems. We know the story. Consider subscribing to my ODYSEE and actually maybe, get used to using the platform, because honestly, it's the case that most of your favorite conservative creators at some point, sooner than later, are probably going to be on alt-tech platforms of some sort. So go consider doing it, okay? Consider checking it out. But anyways, guys, with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Alpha moves only. FSU is cringe, but in this case, it's actually not their fault. And I'll see you guys later. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to consider leaving a like. Consider becoming a member on YouTube too, folks. Got a lot of exclusive members content. And if you're a Florida State fan, truly I am sorry. I was just kind of in the mood to do a little bit of trolling, do a little bit of bullying. It is rivalry month, I should say, for all the schools in Florida, right? Florida plays FSU in 2 weeks. They just played Miami, so we're gonna, we gotta do a little bit of trolling. All right, see you guys later. Have a good day. Remember the ODYSEE account too. Do it. All right, see you guys soon.